One thing that one of my mission leaders always stressed me, and I served around him a lot. I kind of followed him a little bit around the mission. He ended up becoming an AP, and I went home just after he did. So he's my mission leader for a long time. He always told me, you don't give up on people. You don't ever give up on people. And that's where he found a lot of his success in his mission, is he would go back through the area book and talk to other missionaries that had been in the area and talk about people that had been found for a reason, that the Lord wanted to give them the gospel and they weren't quite ready earlier. And he would, sometimes he would work these people to death. And it always came out successful because he cared about him, and he knew that he wasn't just teaching to get someone baptized. He knew he wasn't just trying to meet that goal, but he was trying to teach someone the gospel of Jesus Christ. And he knew it could bless their life. And I watched him have a little bit of success with this in an area where he was I can't remember if he was my district or his only at the time, but he was in the area English, and I was in the same ward, same area Spanish. So we had the same geographical coverage. And we saw each other fairly often. And my companion and I had been working with an investigator thoroughly. I'd been there for 8 months at this point. My companion had been there for about just as long, but he'd been there before, served with me my first transfer there, left for 3 transfers, and they came back to me in the same area. And so we'd both worked with this investigator for several months. To tell more about this investigator, he was Hispanic. His wife had joined the church a couple of years before, and his son was a member of the church because he was old enough to be baptized. His other 3 kids went to church regularly with the wife, but this guy would just not go to church. He loved the missionaries. He was never mean to us. He'd joke around with us and he'd have fun, but he was never mean to us, and he would always make sure we were fed and stuff and make sure we had what we needed when we were at his home. But he never wanted to talk about the gospel. As we got to know him and got to know his wife better, he had been taught by the missionary since about the time his wife had been taught. And for 2 or 3 years, you're always going to find people who have been taught for longer than that. You're going to find people who have been taught for a less amount of time than that. But we worked with him for 8 months and just zero progression. He would always drink, and he was drunk very frequently, and he just had no interest. And about the same time, this companion I was talking about the same time he came back, this investigator had a sister in Mexico pass away unexpectedly. She drowned. And it really shook him up a lot. He got really humble. He got really serious about things. He wouldn't really joke with us at all. He just kind of do his own thing. And he was really shooken up. We could just see that. And about a month later, as he was starting to get over it, his brother, mind you, both these were younger than him, and he was about 35. His brother died. He said of some heart problems. I'm not sure what, something medical. And he went into a lot of depression, this investigator did. He got really depressed. He lost 2 of his siblings within 2 months, and he didn't understand why, and he kind of lost the grasp he thought he had on reality. He didn't understand, why people live life the way they do. He didn't understand the difficulties of life. He didn't understand trials. He has a hard time understanding all of his difficulties, and he finally, after a couple weeks, turned to God and prayed about it. He started reading the Book of Mormon. He talked to us a lot about it, and he tried to develop a relationship with Jesus Christ. And that took him a while, but we finally got him to come to church, and he finally started letting the gospel be a part of his life, and it built up all his, it built up a strength in him that he needed to overcome his trials and to get a firm understanding of what life really is and what it means. Get a firm understanding of what his family meant to him and how important he was to them. And as we taught him and he started to come to church, he was just overwhelmed with the idea and thought that he needed to be a good example to his son who had already been baptized. He wanted that so badly as he came to a realization of the importance of life. And it was amazing for us as missionaries to watch that transition, this change in this person who had been the same drunk guy that we'd seen and missionaries had seen for over 2 years. And he made a change in his life. I remember we kept asking him at this point to get baptized. Do you want to get baptized? Do you want to get baptized? And he'd say, no, elders. He said, one day I'll know. But right now I'm not ready. I'm not worthy. I haven't repented enough. And I need to be clean before. I need to be as clean as I can before I get baptized. He would tell us that all the time. And a lot of times when we meet with him, his wife wasn't there. So I don't think she realized how much he's progressing because he was trying to keep it a little bit of a secret from her. I remember one Sunday we got him to come. We didn't get him to come to the Sunday school and preach it after much because he was always concerned with getting the house in order and work and stuff. And it was really hard for him to even make it to sacrament meeting with work. So that was a really big push for him. And one day he came to Sunday school and he came to priesthood, and the person who was teaching the class, something got confused and nobody had a lesson ready. And so the leadership in the quorum looked around, and he looked at this brother who he knew well from friends that were getting together. He knew this investigator's wife pretty well, and he kind of knew their family, but on a church sense, they hadn't been together much. And he said, why don't you give the lesson today to our investigator? And me and my companion got really nervous, and we didn't know how he'd feel because our investigator was a pretty shy guy. And he said, all right, he said, I've had a lot of things on my mind we can talk about. And my companion and I got a little bit more stressed, and we were really worried, but it turned out to be a really wonderful experience for him. He got up and he talked about, like I said before, his worries about being a father. He got up and talked about his worries about being an example, about the things he'd done that weren't great in the past and how he could overcome them. And it facilitated a great conversation between him and these other brethren in this quorum who understood the life he was living, to work a hard labor job, to live in a country that he wasn't native to have a young family and to be a father to them. And these men, unlike us missionaries, understood exactly what he was talking about. They all were converts, and me and my companion had both grown up in the church. And this opportunity facilitated them an opportunity to bear testimony to him. And especially one of the most recently baptized of the group bore his testimony to him about how he knew he was ready to get baptized. And he talked about how he'd been working construction in Little Rock, which is about 2 hours away. And one day he just felt it, and he called up the missionaries and said, I'm ready to get baptized, and let's do it today. And it was really exciting. And he talked about how that day felt to him and what it meant him to make a covenant with the Lord, and how that's affected his life since, and how it's affected his relationship with his wife and with his family. And as this member bore testimony to the investigator, and such a similar circumstance, it really touched this investigator, and he thought on it for quite a while after. We showed up at his house that night, to this investigator's house, and he had been asleep taking a nap, and his family, his wife and his kids, had gone to their grandparents to celebrate a birthday party, I think. And he answered the door, and he said, you guys will not believe the dream I just had. And we were still worried about how he felt about teaching the lesson. And so he said, well, tell us about it. And we were just kind of get it in feel, seeing if he was still comfortable. Because like I said, he was really shy. And we worried that him kind of being in charge of the lesson had stressed him out a little bit. And he said, I was sleeping on the couch, and I had a dream that it was Armageddon, that the Lord had come and the final judgment had come, and I was at the final judgment, and it was happening right now. And he said, and I watched my wife and my kids go to heaven without me, because the Lord said I hadn't been baptized when I had the opportunity. And he looked at us and he said, I'm ready to get baptized today. Can we do it today? And my companion and I were just like, after so long of waiting for this to happen. And so we said we can have the font full in 2 hours. And so we got everything ready. We called the bishop. We got it all worked out. And he said, don't tell my wife. He said, I'm going to call her, and she'll just meet us there. And we're like, okay. So he called her, and he said, hey, there's something going on at the church. We need you to meet us there. And so she shows up, and we're there filling up the font. And there's like nobody else there except for us and him and her. And she's like, what's going on? And he said, well, I thought you'd want to be here for my baptism. And she just started crying. She was so happy. And to watch how that affected their family was one of the most spiritual moments of my life. because I could feel the Lord's love for this family. I could feel how important it was, and that brought to my life a real sense of the importance of a family in the gospel, importance of the family to the Lord. And it was just a wonderful experience and opportunity to watch that family be joined together in the church, and to watch him step up and take his role, his responsibility as a father, to teach his children how to make good decisions, and for them to be able to see that. I'm sure I don't understand as well as they do how important that is, but it meant so much to me as a missionary to watch him be changed by the Spirit, to watch not giving up on him from the beginning to his point of changing, to watch how much that meant to him, how much that meant especially to his wife. It was worth everything to me at that time. It was worth my whole mission. It was a wonderful opportunity.